After the coffee shop, time stopped behaving normally. Days passed, but Elmer experienced them out-of-order sounds arriving before moments, memories surfacing without permission. He would be washing a mug and suddenly feel tile under bare feet. He would hear laughter on the street and think of gym whistles. A passing cologne in an elevator could tilt an entire afternoon. His mind had begun rewinding, not gently, but obsessively, as if it were determined to inventory every moment it had once waved away as harmless. Sleep didn't reset him the way it used to. Dreams bled into waking hours, and waking thoughts followed him into the night. The past no longer stayed where it belonged. It moved freely, inserting itself into ordinary tasks, asking to be acknowledged. He stopped asking, "Why?" and started asking, "How?" How many exceptions had there been? How many rules bent only for him? How many times had discomfort been labeled as trust, obedience reframed as maturity? The questions stacked instead of resolving. Each answer led to another corridor, another quiet realization. What haunted him most was not a single act, not a moment dramatic enough to isolate and point to, but the pattern, the slow build, the patience of it. Nothing rushed, nothing obvious, just a steady reshaping of normal until the abnormal no longer registered as such. Once he saw that, he couldn't unsee it. Every memory reorganized itself around it, understanding incidents that had once felt confusing now felt deliberate. Praise sounded different in hindsight, so did silence. He began to recognize the difference between being chosen and being targeted, between attention and care. At night, he wrote lists he never showed anyone, moments, names, dates, fragments, sometimes full sentences, sometimes only a word that carried more weight than it should have. Not accusations, evidence. A record meant not to persuade, but to remember accurately. The act of writing steadied him, anchored him to the present, even as he catalogued the past. For the first time in his life, he allowed himself to believe that what he felt back then mattered now. That his confusion had been information, not weakness. That survival hadn't erased harm. And that belief changed everything. It altered the way he held himself, the way he spoke, the way he listened. It gave him permission to trust his own memory without apology. The past no longer felt like a personal failure to get over. It felt like a responsibility to understand. Time still moves strangely, but it was no longer in control. However it was, that's at note 11. Writing this was my honor, knowing that slow and painfully but sorry I wasn't hunting for blame here. I was learning to trust my own memory.
The answer came by accident. Elmer was deep into an online search, spiral old newsletters, archived event flyers, forgotten PDFs, clicking links that led nowhere and everywhere at once. Tabs multiplied across the screen, each one a fragment of a past he hadn't meant to revisit so thoroughly. He was searching out of habit more than intention, following loose threads, when he noticed something wrong. EKSD wasn't spoken about in the past tense. The land should have been. The language was current, casual, ongoing. There were recent posts, new photos, smiling faces cropped carefully at the edges. A fundraiser dated just months ago, complete with Schaefer captions and donation links. His pulse spiked. The school hadn't vanished. It had rebranded, different name, different logo, same address. The realization landed with a sickening clarity. He sat back from the screen, the chair creaking under his weight. nausea rolling through him as memory and evidence collided. This wasn't an oversight. It was strategy. A clean coat of paint over a structure that had never been dismantled. Whatever that place had been, whatever it had done, it hadn't ended. It had simply learned how to hide better, to soften its language, to speak in the vocabulary of progress and care. He closed the laptop, then opened it again, as if hoping the truth might disappear if he looked away long enough. It didn't. The facts waited patiently, unbothered by his discomfort. When he told Chloe, she didn't hesitate. "We should go," she said. "Not to confront, not to accuse, to see, to confirm, to take back something that had been frozen in time, mislabored and quietly passed forward to a new generation." They drove together in silence, the road familiar in a way that tightened his jaw. Street names resurfaced like half-remembered warnings. The building appeared on the horizon like a scar the landscape had tried to forget. Something the city had learned to look past. Fresh paint, new banners, tear-from colors layered over old bones. Optimism applied like insulation. For a moment, Elmer stayed in the car, hand resting on the door handle. He noticed the details, the trimmed hedges, the new sign, the open blinds meant to signal transparency. He waited for the old reaction to arrive. It didn't. Elmer didn't shake when he stepped out of the car. That surprised him. What he felt instead was a strange steadiness, a sense of distance that hadn't existed before. The building no longer loomed the way it once had. It was just a structure now, just a place pretending to be new. He realized, standing there, that fear required uncertainty. And uncertainty was gone. DevZen Note 12. Some places don't disappear, they adapt, and realizing that is what turns reflection into resolve.
Walking the grounds felt unreal. Some things were different. Benches moved, signs replaced, paint refreshed in places meant to signal progress. But too much remained the same. The angles, the spacing, the long, unobstructed sightlines that offered nowhere to hide. The way the air felt heavier near certain doors, as if memory itself had weight. His body remembered before his mind did, responding with attention he hadn't consciously invited. They didn't go inside. They didn't need to. The threshold alone was enough. Elmer stood there and let the memories arrive, one by one, without flinching. He didn't rush them or push them away. This time, he named them. This time, he didn't minimize them. This time, he didn't confuse survival with consent, endurance with choice. Each recollection settled where it belonged, no longer demanding defense. "I was a kid," he said aloud, more to the bleating than to Chloe. His voice didn't shake. That should have been enough. The words hung in the air, simple and undeniable. Saying them felt like setting something down after carrying it for far too long. Something loosened in his chest, not relief, not peace, but permission. Permission to stop explaining, permission to stop protecting a place that had never protected him. Permission to let responsibility return to where it had always belonged. Chloe didn't interrupt. She didn't need to. Her presence was steady, grounding, a quiet acknowledgement that what mattered had already been said. When they left, he didn't look back. Not out of bitterness, not out of fear, just certainty. The place no longer had a claim on his attention, no longer required his watchfulness. It was simply there, diminished by truth. Healing, he realized, wasn't about reclaiming the good memories or proving resilience. It was about refusing to carry the lies anymore. Dev's endnote. This chapter would be me standing where I once shrank and choosing not to look away if I ever went back to visit that school.
After the visit, nothing rushed him anymore. Elmer had expected some kind of emotional explosion, rage, collapse, closure, something cinematic enough to mark an ending. But what came instead was quieter and heavier, a shift that refused to announce itself. Understanding didn't shout. It didn't demand witnesses. It sat with him. It followed him through grocery aisles, through traffic lights, through mornings where coffee tasted wrong, no matter how much cream he added. It waited beside him in mirrors and showed up in the pauses between thoughts. He started noticing how often he had been trained to say yes. Yes to opportunities. Yes to exceptions. Yes to being grateful. The pattern revealed itself slowly, like a watermark once you knew how to look. He replayed conversations in his head, not to torture himself, but to finally listen to what had always been there. The compliments that came with conditions, the freedom that required silence, the kindness that disappeared the moment it was questioned. Each memory rearranged itself, no longer flattering, no longer benign. What unsettled him most was how effective it all had been. They hadn't needed fear, not at first. They had used pride, belonging, the careful language of "we chose you." The promise that if he just stayed easy, stayed good, stayed quiet, everything would be fine. The reward was proximity, the cost was himself. And for a while, it had been. Elmer realized that part hurt almost more than anything else, because it meant the lie had worked. He talked with Chloe often during that time. Sometimes they unpacked memories together, comparing notes, filling in gaps neither of them had known were there. Other times they sat on the phone in long pauses, both understanding that words weren't always the point. Healing didn't require constant analysis. Sometimes it required rest. Sometimes it required being witnessed without explanation. But beneath the calm, something was building. Elmer could feel it, a pressure, slow and deliberate, not anger, exactly responsibility, the kind that settles in your chest and refuses to leave once it arrives. It wasn't loud, but it was insistent. The school still existed, maybe not in name, maybe not in the same shape, but the system that had allowed it to function hadn't vanished. It had just learned to stay quiet, to soften its edges, to wait for attention to move elsewhere. He thought about the kids who were there now, kids who trusted easily, kids who believed adults when they said, "This is normal," kids who hadn't learned yet how often normal was a disguise. That was when the thought arrived, not as panic, not as fear, but as clarity. And I don't owe them my silence anymore. It didn't feel brave. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt like a fact, steady and unmovable. Elmer didn't know what would come next. He wasn't planning anything. He wasn't looking for revenge or justice wrapped in spectacle. What he wanted was simpler and harder. He wanted the truth to stop ending with him, standing at his window one night, watching the city lights blink on and off like signals. He understood something final and grounding. Some structures don't deserve to be preserved just because they've always been there. Longevity was not the same as legitimacy. Survival was not proof of goodness. Some things, once seen clearly, cannot be unseen. And whatever happened next, whatever choice he was asked to make, he already knew where he stood. Dev's endnote,
future over the familiar.
The fire wasn't loud at first. It started as confusion, sirens cutting through the night, people gathering at a distance, the sky flickering orange where it shouldn't. The smell came before the sound, sharp and chemical, a warning that something irreversible had already begun. Wind carried ash in thin spirals, settling on coats and hair like quiet punctuation. Elmer stood with his hands in his pockets, watching heat rise and bend the air like a lie finally collapsing under its own weight. Someone from the school found him. They always did. Their voice shook as they spoke, words tumbling over each other. Practiced concern unraveling under pressure, they spoke quickly as if speed could outrun consequence. The building, the history, the programs, the children. Each word was delivered like a fragile object passed from hand to hand. They said community like it was a spell. They said legacy like it deserved saving, like it hadn't already taken enough. They asked him to help. They said he knew the place better than anyone. They said he was trusted. They said he was special. Each sentence landed with expectation, with a familiar weight around them. The night pulsed red and gold as the flames climbed higher, chewing through the roof. Windows burst one by one like exposed nerves. Glass falling inward, surrendering at last. The fire had found its rhythm. Elmer looked at the building, not as it was now, but as it had been memory overlaid, the present precise and uninvited, the rooms that taught silence, the walls that learned how to watch, the rules that bent only when it benefited someone else, the smiles that never reached the eyes, rehearsed and rewarded. He thought of kids not yet old enough to name dread, not yet old enough to know when something feels wrong but does anyway. Kids who would be told to behave, to be grateful, to misunderstand their own instinct. Kids who would learn too early what it meant to be small inside a large system. No, he said. The word felt solid, clean like a door finally closing, like a line drawn where none had been allowed before. I'm not saving the school, he continued. Voice steady as the fire roared louder, hungry now, unapologetic. I'm saving the students who haven't walked through those doors yet. Silence followed, thick and awkward. No one argued, no one could. The flames answered instead, cracking beams, erasing hallways, rewriting the night in heat and light. By morning, the building was gone. All that remained was a field of blackened brick and twisted metal, steaming under the early light. Smoke drifted low and pale, unsure of itself now. As if searching for something left to cling to, firefighters moved quietly at the edges, their work reduced to watching and waiting. The danger had passed, but the meaning lingered. Elmer stepped carefully over the rubble and stood where the entrance had once been, where doors had opened and closed with quiet authority. This was where so many futures had narrowed without announcement, where harm had worn the costume of tradition. There was no triumph, no relief, just truth. He looked out over the wreckage and finally said the words that had been waiting years to be spoken, the words that stripped the past down to what it had always been, unadorned and undeniable. I guess the school really was smoke and mirrors. And with that, the illusion ended. Dev's final end note. I wrote Smoke and Mirrors because there are experiences that don't fully reveal themselves until years later. Moments that felt ordinary, even joyful at the time, can quietly change shape as you grow older and gain language for what you lived through. This book is my attempt to sit with those moments honestly, without rushing past them or softening their edges.